This is the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Yeah, definitely not the best name for a phone. Apple should have really called this the iPhone Pro, which would then come in two sizes, the 5.8-inch and the 6.5-inch model, the same thing that they're currently doing with the iPads or the MacBooks. We don't have MacBook Pro 5 Max or iPad Pro 3 Max, so why do we have iPhone 11 Pro Max? But leaving that bad naming scheme aside, this is by far the best iPhone that Apple has ever released, which, it should be because it's the latest one. But actually, this one fixes all of the major issues that iPhones have had in the past, and I'm very, very impressed. I've been using this as my daily driver since it came out in mid-September, so this is my full in-depth review of the iPhone 11 Pro Max, covering my final thoughts on the design, the display, camera, performance, special features, battery, and value. So yeah, get that popcorn ready and those drinks because this is going to be a long but very detailed one, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, so starting off with the design, from the front, the iPhone 11 Pro Max looks very disappointing. So it's got the exact same design as the iPhone XS Max from 2018, and the same design as the iPhone X from 2017. So we still have that massive notch, which does indeed have some actual high-tech inside for mapping your face in 3D and, unlocking the phone. So there is an actual reason why this thing is so big. However, comparing it to the Note 10's design, the Samsung Galaxy S10s, or especially the OnePlus 7 Pro and the OnePlus 7T Pro, both of which have no notch and no camera cutout at all, well, you can probably see where I'm going. The iPhone 11 Pro Max has a very boring look to it. That will change in fact next year, luckily, but until then we're stuck with its 2-year-old design until late 2020. However, there are a few things that have changed design-wise. So the back now has that famous triple lens camera module, which I'll get into more detail into the camera section of this video. But Apple has also changed the back glass now, so it is now a frosted glass rather than the traditional glass back that we had on the iPhone XS, which means that it won't leave any fingerprints, and it's also much smoother to the touch, and your finger just glides much easier, whereas before you would actually have a tiny bit of resistance. So this does make the iPhone 11 Pro Max the best feeling iPhone that I've ever had in my hands, but then at the same time it also makes it the slipperiest. Luckily, Apple did say that they've added the most durable glass in a smartphone into this, which is very likely a slightly modified version of Gorilla Glass 6. And there's been quite a few drop tests done by other tech outlets and channels, and long story short, it's still glass. And it will break. So it's just that it won't break as easily as the previous iPhones did. But you see, the way glass works is that if you wanted to make it more durable to drops, then you would need to add more plastic into the mixture to make it more flexible, which also decreases the scratch resistance. So I don't know if you guys have seen my Twitter post, but I actually managed to get my iPhone 11 Pro Max scratched very heavily. Luckily, Apple has given me a replacement because of that. Unfortunately, my MacBook Pro still hasn't been fixed or replaced. More about that in a separate video, lots of things I want to cover regarding that. So subscribe notifications if you want to get an update to the whole Apple situation, which isn't going that well at the moment. Now, going back to the iPhone, there's quite a few more design changes that Apple has made, such as moving the Apple logo towards the middle now, which I do believe looks better than ever before. We also have no more iPhone branding on the back, and also no more regulatory information, unless you have the European model, which still has those, unfortunately. But other than that, we get an extremely clean look of the back. And something that I do like is that the inside of the camera module now matches the color of the iPhone, unlike the mock-ups that we had where it was entirely black. So I do think that it looks better this way, and Apple has actually made the inside of the camera module glossy, while interesting enough on the iPhone 11, the regular one, we have basically the exact opposite. So a glossy back and then a frosted glass camera module. Also, the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max are still one of the only phones on the market that come with a stainless steel frame. All the other ones come with either an aluminum frame or a magnesium or polished aluminum in the case of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, for example. Now, the final design change when it comes to these new iPhones are the colors. So we get 4 colors this year. We have the regular space gray, we have the silver, we have the gold, but then we also have a brand new midnight green color. The space gray has this very clean and matte black look, which I absolutely love. The silver now has this frosted white look where the Apple logo is barely visible at all. And wow, I don't know, there's something about that white model that kind of makes me regret going for the space green model myself. The midnight green one looks good, but extremely similar to the space gray one. So yeah, aside from the stainless steel frame, which was indeed dark green, they're pretty much identical. And then the gold one looked okay, but I do think that the previous Gold XS looked so much better than this one. Now, the iPhone 11 Pros did actually get a bit thicker than last year. So at 8.1mm thick, these iPhones are one of the thickest flagships on the market right now. The regular iPhone 11 is a bit thicker at 8.3mm, but aside from that, the only iPhone thicker than those is actually the iPhone 4 from 2010. Ever since then, Apple kept making their iPhones thinner and thinner to the point where batteries also had to be made thinner and the battery life ended up being affected. However, in the more recent years, Apple has actually done quite the opposite, making their iPhones thicker and thicker every single year, and also extending the battery life as a result. More about the battery life once we get to the battery life section of this video. But in terms of how the iPhone 11 Pro Max feels in the hand, well, the moment I got it, I could definitely tell that it was bulkier than my XS Max was, which was already bulkier than my iPhone X was, and so on. It's not a fat phone by any means, but it does give you that solid feel in the hand when you hold it, because of its thickness and that premium stainless steel frame. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, we're actually giving away a Google Pixel 4. Yes, the Google Pixel 4, the orange one, and why so orange, or oh so orange actually, we're giving this away. The giveaway ends in a month, and all you have to do if you want to participate in that is be a subscriber of the channel, follow on Instagram and on Twitter at ZONEofTECH, and leave a comment on this video saying why do you want to win the Pixel 4, and also make sure you leave your Instagram handle and the Twitter handle so that I can verify that you're actually a follower on Instagram and Twitter. But there you go, this is pretty much it. All the details are again written in the description box down below, so you can check them out as well. And yeah, good luck to everyone. Moving on to the display, we have the exact same 5.8-inch and 6.5-inch sizes as last year, with a resolution of 2688 by 1242 on the iPhone 11 Pro Max and 2436 by 1125 on the iPhone 11 Pro, and both at 458 ppi. Apple has this weird thing where they actually adjust the resolution in order to keep the same ppi number, so they do this so that they can keep the app scaling consistent across, the devices and make it easier for developers to optimize their apps. We still have the True Tone display from the years before, but we no longer have 3D Touch. Apple added 3D Touch with the iPhone 6s, and it lets you have a secondary tap, a right click so to say, when you applied pressure to certain elements of the UI. However, the problem with 3D Touch was that it wasn't clear which elements supported 3D Touch, and it also increased the thickness of the device by quite a bit, space which they could have used for stuff like, I don't know, a larger battery, for example. So with the iPhone 11 Pros, instead of 3D Touch, we now have haptic touch, where you hold for longer, and then you get a vibration to let you know that, it worked. This means that now in iOS 13, with the new iPhones, you have to hold longer on the apps, and first you get the 3D Touch options, and then if you hold for even longer, they will actually wiggle, and then you can move them around. Now, previously this was all pressure-based, and I honestly prefer it this way, because before, if I just wanted to rearrange the apps, I had to press soft enough for the icons to jiggle, since if I pressed harder, 3D Touch would activate, and I had to repeat the process all over again until I got the icons to jiggle. Now, when it comes to the actual display quality, Apple has actually made some improvements here. So now we have something that they're calling the Super Retina XDR display. Again, another horribly overcomplicated name, but essentially this is a Samsung panel, and it's Samsung's newest generation of AMOLED displays. The same generation, fun fact, that they're using in the Galaxy S10 and the Galaxy Note 10 from just a few months ago. This means that when compared to the iPhone XS Max from last year, the display can now go up to 1200 nits when playing back HDR content versus around 1000 nits. And outdoors, it can now go up to 800 nits from 625. So yeah, it's more viewable outdoors as well, and I also found that the display is actually brighter than the Note 10's display in both outdoors and manual brightness. And we've actually bought a professional display color calibration tool, and here are the results that we got out of the Note 10 Plus's display. So on a white surface with a maxed out manual brightness, we got 349 nits, while on the exact same image on an iPhone 11 Pro Max, maxed out brightness again, we got 524 nits. So while this is overall the best display on any smartphone, I actually do prefer the Galaxy Note 10 Plus's display because of its size, the lack of a notch, and even more vibrant colors. I wish that Apple will allow you to change the color profiles on your phone like Samsung does, since I do personally prefer punchier colors rather than the more natural ones that Apple offers. However, if you're into editing photos and videos on the go, then the iPhone 11 Pro Max is the perfect device for that, because with a DCI-P3 coverage and iOS, this is the best platform to edit and post your Instagram photos and stories from. And I mean, aside from the notch, the only thing that I do dislike about the display is the fact that you cannot watch videos on YouTube in higher than 1080p, even though we have close to a 3K display on this. This is because Apple doesn't support Google's VP9 codec, and Google doesn't support H.265, which Apple does. So yeah, this is a current issue on all Apple's devices and products, so yeah, the iPads cannot play 4K YouTube videos either. Not even the Apple TV 4K, which is quite ironic. So the only way to watch 4K YouTube videos on an Apple product is to use a Mac and download Chrome. That's the only way. So, because of this, while the iPhone 11 Pro Max's display is, like I said before, the best display for editing photos and videos, and scrolling through your social media feed, and reading content, it is not the best display for watching content on YouTube, just because of the notch and the resolution limit on videos to just 1080p. Now, remember when I said that the iPhone 11 Pro fixes all the major issues that the previous iPhones had? Well, I was actually referring to two major issues, out of which the first one was the camera. You see, back in the days of the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 6, the iPhone had the best camera in the smartphone. But then with the more recent releases, the camera quality started falling behind the competition by quite a bit. Manufacturers like Huawei included a 10x optical zoom camera, Samsung added a wide-angle lens, Google added a night mode, which Apple was still missing. Samsung had 4K video recording on the front, a wider angle module, and even Quad HD recording on the front since the Galaxy S6, which launched in 2015 by the way. So yeah, Apple was lacking all of these on the iPhone XS Max from 2018, which was quite ridiculous at that point. But luckily, Apple has now fixed all of their camera issues, and ironically, the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max now have the best camera on a smartphone at the moment. So what has changed? Well, the front-facing camera did get a resolution bump to 12 megapixels from the 7 megapixels that we had since the iPhone 7. But instead of Apple just giving you all that resolution, the selfies are actually still 7 megapixels in size. But then you can zoom out and you can use the entire resolution of the sensor to capture even more into the scene. So yeah, with this technique, we actually do get a wide-angle front-facing camera, which now happens to be the widest one on any smartphone of 2019, just on par with the Google Pixel 4. And then we also have a significantly improved video camera on the front. So before the iPhone 11 Pros, we could only do 1080p 60 max, but now we can record in 4K 60 on the front, which is just nuts. Like, no other smartphone can do this, so Apple went from being in the last place to literally being first, just like that. So yeah, I'm really impressed with the quality of the front-facing camera on the iPhone 11 Pros. Like, the colors are very natural, the image is still very sharp, and the exposure and the dynamic range are just incredible. Really, my only complaint regarding the front-facing camera is that we still do not have a night mode on the front like we do on the Pixel. So yeah, light mode shots with the front-facing camera aren't great, but at least daytime ones are very, very good. And speaking of night mode, yes, we don't have it on the front, but we do have it on the back. And unlike the one on the Google Pixel, which can be enabled manually, the iPhone one's is automatic. So once you're in a low light scenario, this night mode indicator appears, and from there, you can just adjust the duration of the exposure. And I found night mode to actually work very, very well, even better than on the Pixel 4 in a lot of cases. Like, the only case where it wasn't as good was in tripod mode, which is Apple's automatic long exposure mode, which activates automatically when it detects that it's on a tripod. So it was still better than the OnePlus 7T Pro and the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, but the astrophotography mode on the Pixel 4 was just on another level. But I mean, aside from that, night mode on the iPhone 11 Pro was extremely good. Also, it works with both the main and the telephoto lens. It doesn't work with the wide-angle lens, unfortunately. For that, you have to use a third-party app, such as Neural Cam. Now, when it comes to day-to-day shots, because we do have that third wide-angle module now, which Apple is calling ultra-wide, but, you know, in my eyes, it's wide, we can now take some very wide-angle shots now. So we can even take wide-angle panoramas. We can also take portrait mode with both the telephoto and the regular module now. So with these three cameras now, we can take a zoomed in shot, a regular shot, and then also a wide angle shot. So we can capture so much more in the scene. And by having this wide angle module, we have the perfect combo of lenses right in our pockets. And no, Apple was not the first to have 3 lenses on a phone. They were actually one of the last ones to the party, but at least we now have, finally, a wide angle module on the iPhone as well. And what I really like about Apple's implementation is that all the modules are very, very similar. So they're all 12 megapixel sensors, different sensor sizes unfortunately, but they can all record 4K 60 video, which is something that no other smartphone can do with the wide angle lens at least. And then they all try to match the color and the exposure between them so that you get a consistent shot when switching through the lenses. Now, there's a big new feature coming in iOS 13.2 called Deep Fusion, and what it does is that it actually takes multiple photos at different exposures even before you tap the shutter button and then merges those for an even sharper image. What this will do is that it will noticeably improve low light shots that are taken when night mode isn't yet available. So indoor shots, dimly lit photos, those would get the biggest bump here. Here are a few samples of before and after, and as you can see, Deep Fusion does seem to work quite well. So overall, the camera is a very big improvement from the XS from last year, but you see the thing here is that aside from the wide angle module, which is a hardware feature, things such as Deep Fusion or night mode can in theory be enabled on older iPhones as well, easily. But for whatever reason, Apple won't, probably so that, you know, people actually buy the iPhone 11 instead. Now, if you do want to learn more about a camera, then do watch our ultimate camera comparisons, where we compare the iPhone 11 Pro Max against the Note 10 Plus, the Pixel 4 XL, and the OnePlus 7T Pro. So there are over 30 individual tests, actually test categories, and then we have multiple tests for each, so you can get a very good idea of how those cameras really are. But yeah, like I said, overall, the iPhone 11 Pro Max does have the best camera in a smartphone today, thanks to its industry-leading video recording capabilities and very good HDR and night sight processing as well. Now, when it comes to the performance, I have mixed feelings. The iPhone 11 Pros come with Apple's newest A13 processor, which is still around 1 to 2 years ahead in terms of raw performance when compared to the competition. Long story short, this means that your night side photos, for example, will be processed much faster than on something like a Pixel 4, and then we also get insanely high recording frame rates, such as even 4K 120 frames per second, fun fact. So this is something that the chip can actually handle. The iPhone 11 Pros, by the way, record in 4K 120 all the time, and then the final 4K 60 output is actually a processed HDR video with wider dynamic range. So the raw performance is definitely here, but unfortunately it is not being used as much as I wanted. Like, yes, you can edit 4K videos on your iPhone and then export them noticeably faster than any other smartphone out there, but I kinda want more. I would love if Apple had something similar to Samsung's DeX, where you connect your smartphone to a monitor and then it loads up a desktop UI on that monitor. And then, by connecting a mouse and a keyboard, you're pretty much turning your smartphone into a full desktop PC. The iPhone, even though it definitely has the power to do that, fun fact number 3, single core wise, it is actually more powerful than a top-of-the-line 15-inch 2019 8-core i9 MacBook Pro, which is just unbelievable on a smartphone. So Apple's definitely in the lead when it comes to smartphone processors. It's just that I would prefer to see them use, that power more. Like, hopefully that changes in the future. And speaking of changes, we unfortunately have no changes when it comes to the RAM. So we still have 4GB of RAM on both the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max, which is at least 2 times less, if not even 3 times less than what other manufacturers use. Like the Note 10 Plus, for example, comes with 12GB of RAM. And yes, iOS is more efficient than Android is when it comes to system resources, but I've actually had some pretty bad experiences with RAM management on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, where YouTube, for example, would not be kept in the background most of the times. And I've also had this issue with multiple apps, so yeah, RAM management isn't great on the iPhone 11 Pro. And it can get better with future software updates, but the main issue here is that Apple stuck to just 4GB of RAM in 2019 when, even low to mid-range phones today have 6GB of RAM or even 8GB. So that's really, really disappointing. Now, when it comes to special features, there's not a lot of them on this phone. From last year, we did get an improved water resistance up to 4 meters of depth, up to 30 minutes, which is actually the highest level of water resistance on any phone. Aside from this, we do have Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 802.11ax support, which is the next generation of Wi-Fi. So it not only supports top speeds of up to 9.6 gigabits per second from around 7 gigabits per second of Wi-Fi 5, but it also eliminates network congestions almost entirely, as long as you have a Wi-Fi 6 enabled router and multiple Wi-Fi 6 devices as well. So this is pretty huge. I left a link to a very good Wi-Fi 6 router below. So yeah, this is more of like a future-proofing feature. Now, something that I was not expecting to see with the iPhone 11 Pros was even more improved speakers. Not only are they louder now, but they also support something called spatial audio, as well as Dolby Atmos. Essentially, whenever you're watching movies and videos that support Dolby Atmos, which are usually the ones from iTunes and Apple TV, you would get this virtual 3D sound effect. So it works really nicely, but don't expect anything like a theater quality experience, since this is still a smartphone speaker. I do like the fact that they're louder now, since I always listen to podcasts while taking a shower, by the way, and I do always need a very powerful speaker in that case. And I could easily tell that my iPhone 11 Pro Max was louder than my XS Max was, so yeah, here's how they compare. However, if you need something more powerful that offers a much better sound quality than your smartphone does, well, in that case, you definitely need to try out a Bluetooth speaker such as this one. And Marshall was kind enough to not only sponsor this video, but also send over their new Stockwell 2 speaker, which is honestly pretty amazing, and it comes with 5 major features. First off, it looks stunning. So it has this high quality silicone enclosure, which makes it very, very durable, and then it also has a metal grille inspired by the actual classic microphone design. How cool is that? Then the strap has this leather texture on the outside and this velvet-like texture on the inside that's actually been inspired by the actual straps that you get on guitars. Yeah, I mean, this is honestly the most premium and stylish design and build that I've ever seen on a portable speaker. Then second, the Stockwell 2 is also water resistant. Yes, it has an IP rating of IPX4, which means that it can withstand rain and splashes of water. So you don't have to worry about this being damaged if the weather's not on your side. Number 3, it offers 20 plus hours of battery life, which is something very impressive, and on top of this it also comes with a USB Type-C port, and it also offers fast charging. Yes, just 20 minutes of charge will actually give you 6 hours of playback time, whereas a full charge is reached in just 5 hours. Not only that, but here's something really, really cool. So you can actually use the USB Type-C port to charge your smartphone as well. And it even has an aux port, so you can use this as a physical speaker for a computer if you really want to do that. Then number 4, it actually supports Bluetooth 5.0, which not only means that it offers up to 40 meters of range indoors compared to 10 meters on Bluetooth 4.2, but you can also link up to 2 devices to this at the same time and then easily switch between them. And finally, number 5, the sound quality is really good, as in really, really good. It supports multi-directional sound, so the sound is coming from both the front as well as the back. It also has 3 dials on the top, the first one being for the volume, that's also the on-off switch, the second one being for the bass, and then we also have a treble dial, so yeah, no need to use a smartphone app to adjust those, because you can adjust them directly on the speaker itself. We then have the Bluetooth pairing button as well as the live indicator for the battery life. So yeah, overall, it's really good. It's very portable, as you can probably tell. It's water resistant, it supports quick charging, as well as being able to charge your smartphone, and it also sounds incredible. So yeah, check it out using the link below, and thanks again to Marshall for sponsoring this video. There's also a brand new U1 chip that improves AirDrop file sharing and precisely locating your iPhone. But I mean, aside from that, we don't really get anything new. We have the same haptic engine as before. We have USB 2.0 Lightning port, which is, it's really bad in the first place that it's not USB Type-C, but it's even worse the fact that it's Lightning USB 2.0, which means that transferring files via an SD card from your camera or even directly from your camera is horribly slow on what's supposed to be a pro phone. There is still no always on display and still no reverse wireless charging like it was rumored to come with and like it was leaked. So this means that if you have the second generation AirPods with a wireless charging case, you'll need a Samsung phone, ironically, to charge the AirPods from the back of your phone, because it's not supported on the iPhone. You cannot really do it with the 11 Pros or any iPhone. There's also no 90Hz refresh rate display and nothing really that makes the 11 Pro stand out feature-wise over the competition. And now the second issue that was fixed with the iPhone 11 Pro was the battery life. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but the iPhone 11 Pro Max has the best battery life in any smartphone that I've used. I'm not even exaggerating. This is really impressive. There were quite a few battery drain tests that other channels have done, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max actually won in all of them by quite a significant lead. This thing can finally last me for an entire day of use easily, and even 2 days. Like last weekend I was pretty much out all day, and using my iPhone constantly and taking photos, and at the end of the day I still had like 40% battery life left, and yeah, this thing is just insane. So this is thanks to the larger 3369 mAh battery up from the 3174 one that we had on the iPhone XS Max. So that's a massive improvement, which is made possible thanks to the removal of 3D Touch and also the thicker body, and also thanks to the Apple A13 processor, which is also much more power efficient with up to 40% less power consumption for the GPU. We also get a fast charger finally inside the box, so this is an 81 charger compared to the 5-watt one that we got before, which can outcharge your iPhone up to 50% in just 30 minutes. So yeah, I'm quite glad and very surprised to see an iPhone last longer than my Note 10 Plus or any other Android phone on the market right now, since the iPhone has always been a meme because of its poor battery life. Also, pro tip, if you do use dark mode on iOS 13, battery life would be even more improved. PhoneBuff did an amazing video on that, which I'll leave a link down below right here. Okay, so in the end, what are my final thoughts on the iPhone 11 Pro Max? Well, aside from the name, which is straight up stupid and it makes no sense, because let's be honest, this is not a pro phone. The camera is very good on this phone, but it's not a pro camera. Otherwise, we would have custom LUTs, we would have custom bitrate, we would have custom first-party mounts, and at least the ability to, change the resolution and the frame rate directly from the camera app, which we still cannot do on this phone. And then also, we have no 90Hz refresh rate display like on other phones that have Pro in their name. There's no USB Type-C, which is really, really bad. There's no USB 3.0, which is again very bad. But the camera is noticeably better than last year, and the battery life is the best one out there, and the best one we've ever had on an iPhone and on any other phone for that matter. However, if you just want those two features, the camera and the performance, and the battery life, in that case, the iPhone 11, the regular one, has pretty much everything that the Pro and the Max already do. Aside from an OLED display and a zoom camera, we have everything. And that's honestly worth it so much more. So definitely watch our review of the iPhone 11, the regular one here, and also check out our articles, our written articles and reviews on our website, ZONEofTECH.com/articles. And then also, if you want to buy this phone or any other stuff and you want to support the channel, please consider using the links below in the description, the affiliate links. For example, for the Amazon ones, you don't have to pay anything. However, Amazon does give us a small commission from their end, which helps support the channel and videos such as this one. Definitely subscribe to notifications if you want to see more insanely in-depth tech videos like this one. This took me 1 hour and 30 minutes to record. By the way, I'm still recording. I'm not fully done just yet, but yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you guys think about the iPhone 11 Pro Max yourself and the iPhone 11 regular one. What are your final thoughts? And yeah, this has been pretty much it. So thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.